You call politeness what I call fear in disguise. You smile when you want to scream. You apologize when you should lift your head. You say no problem while you're being torn apart inside. Pathetic. Modern courtesy is not virtue. It's submission cloaked in social varnish. It's cowardice pretending to be civilization. I say this without mercy. A man who is polite at the wrong moment isn't noble. He's a slave. And predators can smell that. Oh, how they can. They don't attack the strong. They seduce the polite. They test you with small gestures, interruptions, dirty jokes, lateness, and wait for your reaction. If you laugh to ease the tension, you've already lost. Society teaches, be kind, be understanding, give second chances. But who taught you that? Your mother, your church, your boss who smiles as he exploits you. Well, I tell you, there is a place where automatic forgiveness is seen as weakness. It's called reality. There, whoever says it's fine all the time is discarded as irrelevant. And whoever apologizes too much is read as someone who has lost the right to stand firm. Apologies don't redeem. They only reveal the desperation for reconnection. The superior man doesn't beg for reconciliation. He imposes his presence with the coldness of an offended god. There is a secret caste in the world, emotional vampires. They don't suck blood, but time, attention, and empathy. They arrive as victims, dress in lamentations, feed on your compassion, and leave you empty. And you fool trained to be good, bow before others' self-pity like a faithful servant. I ask you, how many times have you fueled a cycle of self-destruction just because you were afraid of seeming cold? True kindness is not giving in to tears, it's cutting off the source of the poison. Silence, boundary, confrontation. Sometimes denying comfort is the greatest act of love because it interrupts the self-pity show before it destroys another innocent audience. But the most humiliating thing is seeing how you treat your own time as if it were trash. People who show up late, who reschedule, who disappear and reappear at will, and you say, "It's okay, I'll wait." Wait for what, idiot? Salvation? Approval? Or the next crumb of consideration? Know this, time is the most valuable currency of power, and whoever wastes it in front of you is not disorganized. They are testing your worth. The polite response is not noble, it's servile. Let me know when you're ready. That's all. If they don't. Understand, vanish. Absence is the cry of those who don't need to beg. Passive aggression is the sophistication of manipulators. They don't shout, they whisper poison. They don't confront, they mock, they don't explode, they go silent. And what do? You laugh it off, you soften it, you excuse it. Like a dog wagging its tail for the executioner, don't you realize that every malicious silence, every disguised sarcasm, every ambiguous compliment is a dagger at your authority? The predator doesn't want dialogue, he wants dominance. And whoever responds with emotion loses the game. Against the passive-aggressive, you don't use anger or kindness. You use killer neutrality, surgical coldness, a simple, let's get to the point, and the poison returns to the mouth of its distiller. You've confused politeness with identity. You've become hostages to your own gentleness. You're so programmed to look good that you unlearned how to be dangerous. And that's why you're irrelevant. The world doesn't respect those who are always available. The world respects those who can be kind, but choose when to be. That is the difference between a civilized man and a conditioned man. The first controls himself. The second bows by habit. When your courtesy is automatic, it doesn't command respect. It hands over your soul on a silver platter. You are not virtuous. You are trained. And the more you apologize, the more you reveal that you don't feel worthy of existing. Sorry I'm late. Sorry to bother you. Sorry for being who I am. Pathetic. Every unnecessary apology is a reminder that you believe you need permission to occupy space. What kind of strength comes from that? None. The man who apologizes for having boundaries, for having a voice, for having time, has already declared existential bankruptcy. The superior man doesn't justify himself, he acts. He doesn't say, sorry, I'm late. He says, here is the update. The world feels the difference, and those who feel it fall silent. Now listen closely. Discomfort is the field where gods and servants are measured. Most of you flee tension as if fleeing hell, but tension is the stage where sovereignty reveals itself. You want respect? Then don't run away when the conversation gets heavy. Don't back down when the room fills with silence. Say, You don't have to agree with me, and I don't need your permission. That, my friends, is not arrogance. It's marked territory. Respect is born when you stand firm, even when all eyes try to bend you. There is a subtle art in withdrawal. I'm not talking about escape, I'm talking about voluntary exile. When someone crosses every boundary, a fool confronts, yells, tries to explain, but the man who understands the game disappears. He falls silent. He freezes access. He turns his absence into punishment, and that punishment echoes louder than 1,000 speeches, because true power is not in wounding, it's in becoming unreachable. And do you know what terrifies the manipulator most? Being ignored by someone who has presence, being forgotten by someone who once offered light. That is the revenge of those who need no revenge. If you've made it this far and still don't feel attacked, then perhaps you're already dead inside. But if something in you twisted, if some mirror cracked, then do something useful with that discomfort. Like this video right now. Comment the city from which you hear me. I want to know where there still are men who don't sell their dignity for applause. Where there still are souls who prefer the coldness of truth to the false warmth of social acceptance. And if you are truly one of those, subscribe to this channel. Because I didn't come to offer comfort, I came to offer swords. I observe you and see a generation addicted to being understood. You want everything validated, welcomed, explained with empathy. Poor fragile souls. Life is not a therapist. The world is not your mother. And those who hold power never bow before emotional pleas. You give away your energy at every whimper, thinking that is being human. No, that is being useful to those who know how to manipulate weakness. The true master does not nurture suffering, he strangulates it. Because pity without intelligence is the disguise of self-annihilation. There comes a moment, and only one, when courtesy regains power, when it is used by choice, not instinct. When a dangerous man smiles, the world pays attention. When a lamb smiles, the world laughs back. The difference lies in the possibility of destruction. Authority is born when you can humiliate someone, but choose not to. When you could disappear, but decide to appear with elegance. That is control. That is dominion. Politeness only has value when it comes from above. Otherwise, it is just the gleaming leash of a smiling slave. You talk so much about empathy, but you don't know how to apply it to yourselves. You give everything to others, time, patience, forgiveness, but when you look in the mirror, you treat yourselves like trash. You apologize for every imperfection. You explain away every boundary. You walk around afraid of seeming too harsh, too rude, too unapproachable. I ask, so what? Since when is being too accessible a virtue? Since when is being an open door a sign of greatness? Trash is accessible too. Worms are also grateful when they find someone always available. Value arises from what is rare, and you will only be valued when you stop begging for understanding. Want to command? Respect? Then learn this. Your absence is more eloquent than your words. When you stay silent in the face of provocation, when you back away from drama, when you disappear instead of justifying yourself, you change the hierarchy of the room. The manipulator expected noise, expected reaction, expected the usual emotional theater. And what did he find? A wall, a desert, a soundless barrier. And that destroys him from within. Strategic silence is not a mission. It is psychic warfare. And in that game, whoever shouts first is already lost. The social predator is patient. He doesn't bite immediately. He tests. He tosses crumbs of disrespect to see how far you will take it. Interrupts you in conversations. Laughs at what you value. Toys with your schedule, your words, your emotional boundaries. And each time you respond with a forced smile, with, "It's fine," with another attempt to please, he grows. He climbs an invisible step in the hierarchy you built yourself. Machiavelli knew, power is not granted, it is perceived. And every social test is a silent election where the weak vote against themselves. You have been indoctrinated to seek acceptance instead of respect. And that is the root of your ruin. The respected one is not the most smiling. He is the most enigmatic, the most unpredictable, the most selective. You want to be loved, and that makes you disposable. You want to be understood, and that makes you too transparent. But true power begins when you stop caring about being understood. When your presence, your coldness, your lack of explanations become intolerable to the insecure. At that moment, you cease to be accessory and begin to be a threat. You still believe you must keep the peace to be good, that you must yield so as not to lose connections. But I tell you, keeping the peace with those who violate your boundaries is declaring war on yourself. You stay silent in the face of offense, pretend not to see manipulation, tolerate lateness, swallow sarcasm, and then you cry because you are not respected. Well, respect does not arise from complicit silence. It arises from implicit confrontation, from a firm gesture, from the look that says, "Not with me." And sometimes the bravest gesture is simply not to respond, to cut, to disappear, and never return. But you do not disappear. You insist. You try to fix things, to justify, to maintain rotten relationships in the name of a sick morality that calls it maturity. This is not maturity. It is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of seeming cruel, fear of being misunderstood. Real maturity is knowing that not every connection deserves continuation, that some absences save, some cuts liberate, some silences scream louder than any dialogue, and that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is to no longer respond, neither with words nor with presence. You call that coldness, I call it lucidity. You call it arrogance, I call it sovereignty. Today's world is saturated with flatterers, with emotional lambs, with men domesticated by praise and destroyed by a "you've changed." But there is a rare kind of individual who, when he senses manipulation looming, does not respond, does not explain. He rises in silence. He does not justify himself. He withdraws, and that absence weighs heavily. That absence reorganizes space, because when a truly free man disappears, others realize, too late, that they were facing someone who would not return to the theater of the weak. And that is why strategic withdrawal is the ultimate weapon. Sudden absence, refusal to repeat oneself, calculated resignation. That is the supreme response of one who understands that presence is an offering, not an obligation. The manipulator trembles not before confrontation, but before disappearance, because confrontation still offers a stage, but silence is the closing of the curtain, the end of the show, the implicit message, "You no longer have access to my world." And in that moment, the game ends, not with shouts, but with the absence of any sound. If you've understood this, congratulations, you are one step away from the necessary contempt. The contempt that separates the authentic from the domesticated, the master from the servant, the lord of himself from the one who lives to please. From now on, every gesture of yours must be a declaration of sovereignty, every silence, a response, every absence, a sentence. Enough asking for permission to exist, enough measuring your words for fear of displeasing. Let them be displeased. Let them criticize, let them walk away, because the weak cannot endure the presence of those who do not bleed at the first sign of rejection. And if you've stayed this long, then you are dangerous. Because whoever hears such truths and remains is not seeking approval. He is seeking swords. He is seeking armor. He is forging a new way of existing. Share this video. Comment the phrase that cut you the deepest. Like it with the force of someone who no longer accepts being part of the herd. And if you haven't done it yet, subscribe. Here, Nietzsche does not offer advice. He offers cuts, not hugs. He offers mirrors. And if you can still look yourself in the face after all this, then perhaps, just perhaps, there is still a man inside you.